Hello, beautiful being. I'm sitting here with my plant, my beautiful plant. Um, what is a light code? What the heck is it? How is it? Where is it? What does it mean? Today, I really want to go into what light codes are and how we can even go past the definition of a light code. Okay, so let's dive in. Hello, hello, I'm Rebecca Abraxas. I love playing with sound and frequency and light through my voice. It is so fun for me. And lately I've been hearing the term light code. So I looked it up, read a few articles, tuned into my own knowing about it, and I want to give you my experience about light codes, about light language, and about being the frequency of light or source energy through your own voice. So first off, here is my experience. I have been singing for a long time, 20, 30 years. It helped me really come out of shyness and awaken. Exploring my voice also helped me feel this sense of source and my godliness, my God self, my source self. It helped me find confidence and trust in myself and in my life. So I love my voice. I love singing. It has helped me through a lot. And in that journey, I thought I was just, singing songs. But through the years and through some different practices that I did, I had some feedback and I had a download that said, start singing without words. What if the words weren't so important? And I didn't know exactly what that meant because I really wasn't aware of singing without words. But through the years, it started to come through and I just started to tone, yes. And then I was studying yoga and toning, right? And Sanskrit chanting and all that. And I thought maybe I'd want to get into kirtan. But it didn't feel like it aligned with me. Like I tried to do kirtan and it never really worked. And, I'd go to it and I would enjoy like a kirtan concert, but to do it myself, it just wasn't aligning. It just didn't feel right. So I started to do more just toning on my own, just kind of letting out sound without structure or form or words. And while I continued to keep writing songs as well, but the songwriting and performing music started to feel really like heavy and not fun and not really interesting anymore. And I was like, what is this about? So I studied with a sound healer her name is Chloe Goodchild. She has a book called The Naked Voice. And so I did a 16-week program with her. And she confirmed everything I was feeling in me that the voice was doing for me, with me, as me. And I also studied Reiki. And what was happening was that in Reiki, I was starting to see symbols, not the Reiki symbols. I would just start to see like shapes. And I would notice that I would know what sound to make when I saw the shape. So in my Reiki sessions with people, I would give the hands-on Reiki energy, but I would also tone and I would just sing sounds that were informed by these different shapes or knowing. And then my Reiki journey continued and continued. I became a Holy Fire Reiki Master, a Holy Fire Karuna Reiki Master. And then it seemed to kind of expand past all that. And I stopped doing Reiki and was doing something called just crystal light energy. And now that I've stopped that, I don't even know what to do anymore. But what's happening is there's an expansion in consciousness, there's an expansion in energetics and vibration. And I think I've gone past naming anything at this point. And what's also happened is I don't see shapes anymore. I just let out sound. So it doesn't go to my mind's eye and it doesn't go to my brain, okay? It just comes out. And the reason I'm telling this story is because when we talk about what a light code is, this will make a lot of sense. This is just the way I see it. So, take it with a grain of salt. The way I see things is that in this physical world, we have to name and define and create a form and structure around it to bring it into kind of a physical reality. And the thing is, we don't have to do that, but we have to do that on our road of awakening. We have to categorize things, we have to name things, we have to give it a definition, a form, and a structure. But as we go along our awakening journey and our ascension journey, things get a lot simpler. Things get a lot simpler and less definable. And this has been my experience. And because all of a sudden, there's way less form and structure in my spiritual kind of energetic reality. And at first it was wobbly. It was like, why have my capacities disappeared? Like what is happening? And now I'm realizing is that the capacities are not disappearing, they're evolving, they're shifting, they're expanding. And they don't have to go be a form and structure. I actually can access them as just pure frequency through an immediate intention. And that is really cool, although it is not common. And sometimes I can start to get wobbly, like, what am I doing? I don't really know what I'm doing. Yet I do. Can anyone relate to that? Like, you do know what you're doing, yet it doesn't look like this, and that, right? It doesn't look like a certain form and structure. So sometimes our ego and our head, our pain body can start playing little games with us. But what I've noticed with my journey is that it's really getting out of the mind and emotional state of myself and going into the broader perspective of just my spirit bliss nature. And that's where all this is coming from. Now, what does this have to do with light language? And what does this have to do with light codes? Well, what I read about light codes is that they're shapes and symbols that we integrate into frequency through drawing or sound, and putting light codes together is light language. Now, again, it's easy to get into judging yourself around like, well, am I doing light language? Like when I do like this intuitive singing and what I feel is light coming through me, it doesn't sound like a language like I hear other people doing. So light codes are basically just expansion, just frequencies, just like anything. And light codes are a way for someone to explain or define a frequency, a light frequency. And now just because something's light doesn't mean it's a frequency that's right for you. So frequencies of light are a big bandwidth. And so tune in. Just because it says it's light language, just because it says it's a light code, doesn't necessarily mean it's a code or frequency for you. So please discern and be aware. So light language and a light code is basically a frequency of light, of possibility, of an expanded spiritual or energetic. I really see spiritual and energetic these days as the same thing. A light code is basically a frequency code, and it's interesting that they use the word code. It sounds so like, ooh, can I get the code to awaken? And it's really not like that, I don't think. We're on these awakening journeys, and as you open up, you get different capacities that will shift. Capacities meaning awareness. And as that awareness grows and shifts, if you allow the awareness to grow and shift, you will notice that it will become different throughout your time here on planet Earth. But sometimes our judgments and definitions of the certain awareness that we call capacities or something like that, locks us in and kind of prevents our awakening path. So think about this, you know, the clairvoyance and clairsentient and all that kind of stuff. When we become aware of those, that we're seeing things in the mind's eye, or we're hearing things that aren't being heard, when we know things, these are definitions of us waking up to our certain awareness and capacities. Don't get hell-bent on having them. They are a phase of awakening. This is how I see it. It's a phase of awakening, and it will shift and it will go away, because the biggest perspective of awakening is knowing. When you get to that space of pure knowing and pure trust, you start to get out of having to see, right? So we get to have our knowingness without having to process it through our brain or through our emotion or through a vision or even a sound. Like I used to hear a sound and then make a sound. All of this now has shifted, and it's been a process to accept this shift, because, you know, the thinking brain wants to judge everything. If you really let that judgment go and just keep opening up to your growing and ever-changing awareness, you will know that this is not moving backwards. This is actually expanding out into possibility. Because that was a judgment I had. It's just like, am I moving backwards? Where are the symbols? Where are the visions? Where am I hearing? Where are my downloads, right? You become it. You become all of that. And you can let all the definition go. And you become pure light. So you don't need the contrast of the code or the language or the form or the structure anymore. It's the contrast that makes you see it or experience it in a separate way. When you become the light and you expand your awareness and your consciousness and you awaken to the fact that you practice those frequencies long enough, you become it. And when you become it, there is no contrast, because you are it. And so the light codes or symbols, things like that, in Reiki, there's light codes through symbols. And light language, there's certain codes that come through symbols as well, I'm realizing. This is a phase of awakening. It's not the end all. Okay, so when you see light codes and when you see transmission, it's a step, it's a phase of awakening. And it's not the end all, because we're never going to get there. And even when you become the light frequency, we can expand in that as well. So we never get there as human beings, but we keep, if we are diligent seekers and beingers, the ascension process as modern mystics is all about embodying the light. And when we embody it, there is no contrast. And so when, you know, a lot of religions or perspectives view God out here, okay, you know, God and me, there's this contrast, right? And there's that gap in between. Now, as we evolve energetically and spiritually, the gap decreases and the contrast is no longer there. That's ascension. And when we bring those frequencies and sustain those light frequencies in here, that's ascension. And that's ascension within a body. And there's other forms of higher ascension, and that's just a whole nother topic. But when you are seeking to be light, there are no more codes. There's just beingness of light. But the codes along the journey the transmissions, the meditations, the light language, the symbols, and whatever corridor or path that you feel drawn to, they give you little increments of light increments. And so be so grateful for all the increments of awakening and light paths that you're on and that you feel drawn to. And if you feel drawn to a light code YouTube channel or light code class, by all means, go for it. Because a light code is a frequency of light, and it is a frequency of awakening. And when I said be careful and protect yourself from light codes, what I mean is that we can receive light codes from areas that might be a lower frequency than we are sustaining and vibrating at our highest. So you really don't go for every light code or every light language. Look at the title, look at the person, or hear the first note and feel it, sense it. Is this the frequency of my highest self? Now, a lot of light codes are coming in from light aliens, right? ETs. They're coming in from different dimensions. Where is the light code coming from? You need to ask that question to protect yourself, protect your energy. Not everything in the New Age awakening field is for you, because we're all at different places and frequencies. So tune in and ask some questions. Is this light code going to be a benevolent outcome for me? Where is my highest frequency, and does this light code match with that? Now, recently I've done a few meditation music CDs that talk about, not even talk about, they're just me sounding out, and I put the term light code because I saw that there was some other meditation music. And then I read about it and I was like, yeah, I'm bringing down light codes, but my light codes are source. So my practice these days is to be a sovereign connection to my source self, which is here and my source self. And what I like to say is through me, for me, as me. And then I let the energy run through my voice. And so the code is basically the frequency of source. And in the past, I was saying like source at the 144th dimension. That it's just that it's pure source, right? It's not tainted with thoughts, feelings, emotions, forms, structures, definitions, judgments of any kind. Because if you look at different corridors or paths to light, there's a lot of dogma, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of forms and structures that may really work at a certain time for each of us. And then there comes a time when we realize we're a sovereign being and all those forms and structures really aren't a benefit anymore. And so this is not to put any path or anything down. It all gets us to the light. And it's all required. And it's all part of each of our journeys, whatever path and road we went down. I've gone through a lot of paths. And I'm so grateful for all of them. And there comes a time where you shed that path and you shed the dogma and you shed the forms and structures of that path. And all of a sudden you're in a sovereign connection with light, with the source, and with source beyond. Okay, so even the word God is a definition. Even the word source is a definition. But how do we name it when we get beyond all definition? We get beyond the space of, yeah, of any form and structure. Because even like light ETs, that's a form and structure. It's a story. We're all living out a story here. You know, Reiki is a story. It's like this man's story about how he came to allness and light. Um, and you know, if I didn't mention this, I think I might have mentioned it. You know, when we get light codes from people who have gone the journey, it's like shoots and ladders. You're on the board game, right? And you get to land on the ladder that takes you, you know, higher in vibration by receiving that light code or symbols or um, awareness. Basically, we get kind of a transmission of awareness that we get to take the ladder up to a higher frequency and sustain it. So, you know, wherever you find yourself on your journey, the light codes that make light language can be super, super helpful, can be that ladder that brings you up in your vibration. And then it's your work to practice every day to sustain that energy. And listening to light codes, the aligned light codes can really work for you. But as you go up that ladder and you're on this high frequency, there's light codes and there's different practices that actually can make you land on a chute and bring you back down. So chutes and ladders is a really great analogy for this light code and spiritual path. We really have to be diligent about our spiritual path and be willing to expand our awareness and know that it's going to shift and change and not be attached to how it looks and how our spiritual gifts and contributions and capacities look. Because as we go up that ladder, it becomes more and more simple and less defined, which has us in the abyss, and there's less to attach ourselves to, and it can be scary and can be really disorienting. So I'm going to conclude with really, really be discerning of what light codes you are going for. You know, really don't just jump onto anyone. You know, really look at the title. Look who's, you can tell by the first note of it or just the title. You can feel the energy of that person in it. So be aware, use your awareness, and tune into what light code, what practice, what is going to help you, you know, on the ladders, okay, and not shoot you down. Okay, any questions about this? I know it's all over the place a little bit, but please let me know if this made sense and how this landed with you. And if you would like some more commentary and talks about light language and light codes, I'd love talking about it some more. And let me know what you know about light codes and light language. Right in the comments. Thanks so much. And if you would like to get on a journey with your voice, head on over to my website, RebeccaAbraxas.com. There's a cool little gift for you there that will give you some information about how you can use your voice and what your voice is telling you. Okay, namaste, beautiful people.